let's jump across into the listener questions. The first one we have this week, the conductor, our tried and true listener, always giving us some good questions. But he said, damn it, is it too late to ask if Nadolo will get a crack on Saturday? I don't know if it is. Like, look, we said that he's been here or hereabouts. He's been around the last few weeks. He's there if they need him. And I mean, the Tars are locked in at 6. It just depends what they do. Do they want to continue to build continuity? Do they want to give as many players a rest as possible? Because Peach has had very little time not on the field, and Sua'ali'i, I'm pretty sure, has played every single minute of the entire year. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a chance we see him this week.
Yeah, I think that's the big question. Which of the wingers needs a rest, if any? He's obviously, I don't think they're going to move Peach or Marky Sua'ali'i to fullback. So I think you're going to see either Ben Donaldson there or who's Harry Wilson, I think it is, isn't it? Harry Wilson. Can play at fullback as well. Mm-hmm. So I think one of those two will end up at the back. But Nemani Nadolo, I wouldn't mind a bit of a farewell to him as well. This will be, if he did play his last game of Super Rugby or any professional footy as well. So what a send-off just to join Tetra Faulkner, Tolu Latu, and of course the great Michael Hooper as well. But no, I don't think it's likely. There's a little bit too much depth and too many other options, but would love to see it. The next question was from Andrew Hoffmeister. He says, is Lester Fangaranuku is his departure really that big of a loss, considering the talent New Zealand has in its outside backs? He's a weapon, don't get me wrong, and at times unstoppable, but the talent pool in the position is freakish. Nelson, what do you say to that?
Oh, he's a loss. For me, he's their best physical winger in New Zealand. He's got the versatility to play 13 as well. I'd be picking him over Caleb Clark every day of the week and twice on Sundays. He is massive for them, and he's still relatively young, got plenty of time left. Yes, they have loads and loads of talent. I mean, you're gonna have some top wingers missing out, but they're always going to have a couple of different style wingers, and that physical winger, they've relied on Caleb Clark, they've relied on Lester Fangaranuku in the last couple of years, and for me, he is a step above the rest in terms of consistency.
Yeah, I do agree, but the way they play, there's just so many players that can slide in and do a phenomenal job. Let's say they just throw in like Narrower instead. Like they just have so many ridiculous.
They have heaps. I mean, none of them
why don't you throw Nareki in?
Well, I mean, are you going to throw Nareki and Talea? It's fucking amazing, but it's not necessarily the way that New Zealand likes to get their balance of their back three. So I think it means they're probably going to rely more on Caleb Clark. And Caleb Clark, for me, isn't consistent enough, isn't in that form enough. So they either need to rejig how they play their wings or,
You're missing the biggest point here, mate. Clearly, they need a carrier in midfield, right, to offset the loss of Lester Fangaranuku. It's the man that just signed for the Crusaders, Levi Moore. All of a sudden, the balance is fine back in the back line again, isn't it?
What, you shifting Ioane back to the wing?
I don't care. You just start Levi Moore. I don't care what you have to do.
You know that it got revealed Eddie Jones was trying to get him as well for Australia.
We don't talk about that because it goes against our narrative of New Zealand poaching the players.
Yeah. Next question.
Slide that one under the rug, Eddie. Anyway, pushing on.
The Hoffmeister. Another question for us. Will we see wholesale changes for the Tars against Moana? What do you think, Harry?
Yeah, I think short answer, no. I think I guess they'll be conscious of the fact that win or lose, they stay in sixth. So they'll be able to rest a few, but you really don't want to go into a final series losing to Moana. They got kicked around by the Crusaders last week, and I think they do need to really continue to try and build their game if they're going to have any chance in hell of playing a quarterfinal. So I think they'll make a couple of tactical rests. I think Jed Holloway is the obvious one. He's overdue. Harry Johnson-Holmes, I think, has played every game starting since round 3 as well.
Yeah.
Might have come off the bench once. So they're the two big ones for me. Maybe Jake Gordon I could see as well. But other than that, I don't think there'll be too many rests.
I wouldn't hate them trying to give a bit more minutes and a few players' legs. Like, I mean, Lambert, we've seen come back. I wouldn't mind seeing him start. Vaiolanu's been very good. Parecki's played massive minutes. So I wouldn't mind Vailanu getting a start. Maybe put, Parecki on the bench. Gamble hasn't had much time. So I wouldn't hate to see a Gamble and Hooper combo in the back row. And maybe it means Siu has missed some rugby recently. Maybe he plays in the locks to offset that Holloway loss. But it's a lot to start changing. Kane Edmed probably we see come in quite likely to 10, with Dono then going to fullback. But I think you get to see Fekete and Parisi back in as your centre partnership by the sounds of it as well.
Yeah, I think Tane Edmed's a good shout as well to give him a bit of a run just to see what he can do if he can straighten up the attack. But at the same time, I just don't think they're going to be moving so many pieces around. I think Jed Holloway drops out and Ned Hannigan drops straight in. I don't think they're going to look at moving Tony Siu around and then changing the back row balance. And they can't afford to make that many changes. They're not playing well enough to do that, I don't think. But obviously, there's a differing opinion there, so they could do freaking anything because it doesn't really matter if they win or lose. But, God, you would hate to be the only team in an entire year that lost to Moana Pacifica as well. Albeit, I think Moana are going to struggle to get back up emotionally after last week where they bombed an absolute...
Also, they're going to want to send Hooper and the other guys off, mainly Hooper, to be honest, off with a big high. They're going to want to... You
can't send out a B team for Hoops.
Nah.
And let's be honest, mate, we got 2 weeks left for the Tars, so we may as well just run them to the ground. You got 2 weeks off after that.
Yeah, no Jorgensen. He's probably out for the rest of the year, so that's why we're talking about our fullback changes as well.
Yeah. Next question is Mark Talea now a shoe-in for the ABs? He's outshining Caleb Clark and every New Zealand wing each round. I think we touched on this one a little bit.
Yeah, look, I think for me, it's Talea, Fainga, Nuku, and probably Will Jordan if they're not playing him at fullback. They're your three you got to pick from. In my eyes, there's lots of other guys that are really, really good there, but it's those three. I think you got to get Talea on. He's just being too good.
Yeah, I think he is a shoe-in, to be honest with you as well. I think Caleb Clark might be on the other one. I'm not sure that Lester Panganuku is going to be the guy getting a pick just purely because he hasn't had a lot of minutes in that team to get any cohesion and he's leaving. So I get it, it's the World Cup year, but I'm just not sure that you bring a guy in there that late on.
I mean, Clark is just not, he's not in it at the moment. He's just not up to it. Like he's had some moments of being decent. He's been too slow to turn around. He's been caught out a number of times. He's had moments where he's looked amazing, but he still looks young and immature and not really at the point of being a consistent All Black winger when you've got other players that are far better than you at the moment.
I think that's harsh. I think they're different types of props. I think back rowers rather. Well, I mean, Caleb Clark could play props.
Wingers.
Wingers, that's the
wingers
one.
Even.
Back rowers, yeah, that's right. I mean, they could both play either. But look, Lester Fanganuku and Mark Talea, they both come off their wing a lot and search for the ball in the middle of the field, whereas Caleb Clark doesn't. He sits on his left wing and he waits for his opportunity. He's lightning quick off the mark and he's a huge unit. So I think he's that winger that just sits out wide. And if that's what they want,
lazy one,
he's bloody good at it. What you can say lazy winger, but it depends what the balance of the rest of their backline is. They might not want both their wingers roaming as well. Maybe they do want someone settled, so then that way they have a little bit more of a settled back three. So I guess it comes down to how they want to play it. I agree. I don't think Caleb Clark's in as good form as the other guys, but the balance is probably going to be what it comes down to as well.
Good coach doesn't pick him. Yeah, next question. This is a fun one from Neil Young. This is...
let's finish on this one. The Super Rugby punter asked us a different question first. Okay. If Israel Folau was still around, how good are the Tars? Nels?
Look, we both think they are one score better, and that's probably a fair assessment, but also they're a less liked team because, geez, I don't know if you watched that entire game. He is exciting, but he has this air of arrogance. I don't know if other people looked at it when they weren't playing. He wasn't playing for their team and always thought it. But watching him play for the World 15, not passing, being a hog, cheering how good he is when he scores a try. He did some very brilliant stuff. One of the best offloads you'll see off the ground. But he just frustrates me. So I'm happy he's not there.
I'll tell you what, the one score better means that we could have beaten the Brumbies both times.
We won't. We wouldn't have.
No. One score better means that we could have beaten them both times. And
but we also probably won
a conversion.
We're one score worse in defence against those top teams.
And
so the Brumbies still beat us.
Turn it up. And if we also converted the one score better against the Rebels, we would have drawn with them. So the takeaway is essentially we probably would have beaten the Hurricanes. We would have been the 5th ranked team, not the 6th, and we would have gotten to play the Brumbies in the quarterfinals rather than the Blues, let's say.
Hang on. Brumbies could still finish 3rd. It's still possible.
Yeah,
they're not going to, but they could.
You can say whatever you want, but you know I'm right. We're one position better. That's how good we've been.
Okay, so Jorgo, who has been one of our standouts, isn't there, but he's been an all-round player. And we put Folau in. No, he's nowhere near Folau. But Folau attacks, but also never passes.
Mate, so you wouldn't be dropping Jorgo. Jorgo's playing fullback. Folau was playing wing most of the time.
So who are you dropping?
Markey. Or Pete.
Markey Ma?
Yeah, one of them. I mean, he's just Markey 1.0, isn't he?
He's more Markey than Markey, but he's...
Yeah, exactly, mate. So you know I'm right. All right, look. They would have come 5th and they would have lost the quarterfinal. It's official.
So no change.
Brumbies twice in the regular season, lost to them in the quarters. All right. The best question, Nelson. What we wasted all our time on tonight. Go on.
Is it Niall? Is it Niall or Neil? If there's 2 L's, Harry.
I'm going to say Niall.
I'm going to say Niall too. Niall Young. Name your 15 or just handful, but no, we've got 15
from Super.
Yeah, and subs from Super Rugby that have underperformed this season. So, Harry, how do you want to do this?
The first thing that comes to my mind is Homer Simpson going, now the favourite part of every podcaster's chat, the cut. Joe Moody, your cut. Kurt Eklund, your cut. Alan Alatoa, I really like your hustle. That's why it was so hard to cut you.
That's well done. I don't know if you planned that. That was good. But yes, that's the front row. That's the front row.
That is the front row, yeah. Moody, Eklund, and Ala Alatoa. So Moody a man that we thought was an absolute rock in the front row for the last 25 years, it feels like. I think he's just been overtaken by pretty much every other New Zealand prop, who, mind you, have all been playing very, very well. He's not as dominant at scrum time. He's not as versatile. I think he played 10 games before he got injured. So he's definitely got a big enough body of work for it to count, and just not quite there.
Yeah. And then we've got Kurt Eklund, who's just been usurped by Ricky Riccitelli. I mean, the last few years, we were saying he could be an All Black. You know, he's been there for a while. He's been playing well enough, but he's been usurped, and not by a young man. Ricky Riccitelli is 28. Eklund is obviously slightly older, I think. He is 31. So it's not like they're really planning long term. You know, that's what they're trying to find. They've obviously just think that Kurt Eklund doesn't bring as much to that side as Ricky Riccitelli.
I think it's just his line out. It's just not good enough. He's throwing. That's what's hurt him. But, man, he was a top fantasy hooker last year, and he's just barely got game time.
Yeah. So that hurts. And then
Alan Alatoa, obviously an absolute pod favourite. We love him, but we're just used to him just making huge tackle numbers every single week, making some good runs, being a rock at the scrum. I reckon the Brumbies set piece has gone down a little bit this year. They've managed his workload pretty well. He's just absolutely not peaking yet. I mean, it can be a little bit forgiven because we expect he should be our tight head for the World Cup, and maybe he's just building into that. But probably not at his best this year. I think he's been a bit underdone, sadly, and now he's got a big calf injury, so he's going to be out for a little while.
But it's not a substantial thing. In 2022, he made a tackle every 5.88 minutes. This year, it's been every 6.77 minutes. So it's, a minute extra. But the thing is, he's not making the same impact, I think, in terms of the stuff that you're seeing as well. Like, I think he might be a little bit quieter in other measures as well. Like, I don't think we're seeing him as much make the impacts in breakdowns, things along those lines. As you said, the scrum's been a little bit lower. He's making some fewer tackles. And I think the only reason he's on this list is we've got such a high expectation from him because he's been so good for so long. And we think he's, world class and potentially up there at times as the best tight head in the world. And at the moment, he's not at that level.
Yeah. Pushing along.
Hopefully he gets there.
Speaking of disappointing, I mean, that's the 23, right? Or 25, I think we got.
This is harsh, but
Locks.
the
Now,
whole team.
I've got Darcy Swain and Angus Blythe. I mean, two of them, just the champions of yellow and red cards this year, and Swain for the last few years. So I think that goes against him. Swain had a blinder a couple of weeks ago, but it was his only solid big minute performance for the whole year. And Blythe just hasn't been able to get going. Injured to start the year, came on red carded immediately, and since coming back into the side after that, just hasn't been able to get his motor going again. So they're two guys that I think we had quite high expectations of, and they haven't been anywhere near it.
Look, Swain has been a Wallaby, and at the moment he is the fourth best lock at the Brumbies.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's insane. So
Angus Blythe was knocking on the door last year, and he's nowhere near it now.
Yeah, so that's it for us. Again, expectations just not being met. The main thing there. If we jump across into the back row, I mean, you wouldn't expect this guy to be thrown out, but Peter Gus, Sua'ali'i, then we've got Tom Christie, Marina Mikaele-Tu'u. There's some big names in that back row. Peter Gus, Sua'ali'i, obviously, what did he get? One All Blacks cap?
Yeah.
And then heading offshore, and everyone's
like
going,
4 minutes or something, wasn't it? Like 4 minutes.
Yeah, it was a stitch up. But he's really fallen in terms of his form. Tom Christie, he works hard around the paddock. He has had some big matches in D, but his average per game has dropped from close to 20 to 12, 13, something along those lines. And when one of your biggest things is tackling, if you're dropping such a significant amount, you start to sort of fade away a little bit. And I think that's something we've noticed from him. His steals and things have gone down a little bit as well. Things that may be attributed, from the Crusaders' performance throughout a lot of the year, but he was probably better at the start of the year when the Crusaders were struggling. And as the Crusaders are coming to form, I think he's fallen away a little bit.
Yeah, I think he was running a bit more in the first half of the year when they were losing a lot of their big back rowers, and I think that kind of dropped his work rate. And now, as you've had the likes of, let's say Cullen Grace, for example, coming in and playing some more minutes and carrying the ball a little bit more, he just isn't getting the opportunity, and he's just kind of been pushed out of the game a little bit to his own standards. And then Marina Mikaele-Tu'u, like he is the hands down choice at number 8, right? 2 years ago, he was probably the third ranked back rower for his effect on the game in fantasy footy. He was just tearing it up, ripping up trees left, right, and centre. Last year, I think he was 4th or 5th. Like 2 years have been a fantastic, damaging back rower. The bloke gets picked earlier in the year and then gets an injury and now just cannot get his spot back. He's seemingly fallen behind Urent and Sean Withy. And he's just long gone. Like he's just nowhere near a high on the side. That's been incredibly disappointing.
Crazy. When he broke onto the scene, him and Satutu were very similar levels, in that first season. And I think Mikaele-Tu'u, broke onto the scene above Satutu for that first part of that year. But yeah, it's a bit of fall from grace. He's still young, got plenty of time. I don't know, he's got to be 22, 23, 23 maybe. But yeah, he's got plenty of time. But he has been absolutely destroying opposition the last few years. So it's a big drop for him. If we jump across 25, there you go. Halves partnership. We've got Finlay Christie, Ben Donaldson, Harry.
Yeah, I think Finlay Christie, a little bit like Alan Alatoa, we just had such high expectations for him. And I know there's people that probably won't disagree with this one. And we had a couple of other close nominees as well. But he was, the heir apparent to Aaron Smith last year at the All Blacks. And I just don't think he's had anywhere near the same impact on the game as he has. He's had good moments, but last year his passing was crisp every single game. He made damaging runs every single game. He's been left behind by the likes of Cam Roigard, Cortez Ratima off the bench as well. I guess Brad Weber, you could say in a similar vein, just not quite hitting the highs of what he did last year. But for us, Finlay Christie, the All Black last year, he just needs to be at a high level and probably not quite there this year.
I agree. Ben Donaldson, it took him, a couple of injuries to be able to get to the position where he wants to play at fly half. And he had some consistent time there, something that we thought would probably get him back into the real form that we know he can be in. He has improved, I think, once or twice in the last couple of weeks. He's shown that he can take the ball to the line, actually split the line. But all in all, throughout this year, I think he's looked very, very quiet, and I don't want to say a shadow of the man that made a Wallabies squad in a Wallabies debut, but he's not looking the same as well. And I think he needs some consistent time at 10. And if that's in the Western Force, I don't want to see him go, but if that's in the Western Force, hopefully, we get to see the highs we've seen from him in the past.
Yeah, at centre we got Roger Tuivasa-Sheck and Apisalome Vota. Firstly, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck probably started the year better than he's finished. He had a little injury, signed back for the Warriors, and it seems like the Blues have just given him the finger and said, "See you, mate. If you want to leave, you're surplus to requirements." But Harry Plummer, playing at 10 and 12, has not played that well to hold a player of his caliber out. And then now Bryce Heem's been picked above him. Seemingly everybody will be picked above him. They're just not going to play him. He's not needed, apparently. He had one game recently where he started. He only played 40 or 50 minutes, and he had one really good-looking run, but that was it, So just so far down on the man that was pushing for an All Black squad.
Yeah, it seems pretty crazy, to be fair. And then Apisalome Vota, again, we just knew him from last year being absolutely dominant in that centre partnership with Ravovo. And, Yosefa Marcy came onto the scene. They tried to push him out to wing, realised that he didn't really suit wing as much as he did in that 13 channel. And it means Vota's just faded away. He had moments off the bench. He had a couple starts, and he didn't really take those chances throughout the year, and because of that, he's our 13. And I don't know if there's anyone that really comes close early in the season. Preece was quiet, but he's really come good and looking in really good form. But we haven't seen any uptick from Vota.
From fantasy footy, he was tied with Geordie Barrett and Scott Gregory. Scott Gregory's probably up there in this list as well. I can't believe we didn't name him. Yeah. But he ranked above David Havili as well last year. The drop for him is just insane. Outside backs, I've got Manasa Mateele in my number 11 jersey. I know he can play the other side as well, but really he was the Force's best player by country mile last year, and the game plan was very much give the ball to Mateele. It seems like that's not the game plan anymore, which seemingly could be part of his demise. He's obviously battled some Achilles injuries and things as well, but he has just been so underwhelming.
Yeah, I think that's fair. The other one is Julian Savia. I think for us, I thought the last couple of years he's a Kiwi winger, and he's above the age of, was it 25 or whatever?
27.
Maybe 26 even. I don't know. 27. That might be generous these days. And so, he doesn't have the energy in his legs that he used to, and the speed in his legs that he used to. And Super Rugby is a very fast, physical game. He has shown he's still a very, very good player. But I mean, the drop is clear. I think he's showing that he's not, he's not of the standard that we've come to, expect from him.
Yeah, I think you might even be a bit generous there. He's been disappointing. He scored 3 tries in the entire year. He's played more minutes than Royasi and Kininaholo. His attacking stats would be nowhere near them, and that includes a double for his 3 tries. The man, I really hope he scores one more to finish the year, but now that he's injured, I think he busted his shoulder. It might not happen, but he's on the end of an expansive Hurricanes backline. He should just be making a lot more damaging runs than that. And last year, he was just so exceptional as well.
Yeah, I think he doesn't have the pace in his legs to finish off some of the opportunities presented to him, when we know the other wingers definitely would. It honestly felt on a couple of occasions they've gone, let's get this man the record. And they've started him and nothing's happened. And I think that's happened a few times. And that probably is part and parcel why he's on this list as well. But we have one more name in the starting side, and
the captain.
You questioned. You go, do you have a fullback? And I went, it's got to be Kurtley Beale.
He's so far and away the El Capitan of this squad, because he got himself arrested before the season even started. What more do you need? It's not an injury, so we can't say it's because of that. So I think he absolutely deserves to be in this side. I think he's a shoo-in. The captain of the squad, it may as well be called the Kurtley Beale squad of 2023.
Yeah, look, I mean,
captain
be innocent to you're innocent until you're proven guilty. But let's be honest, he's underperformed this year.
He's
we,
definitely
we,
guilty of that.
yeah, we thought he was coming back and he was going to push himself into the chance of a Wallabies jersey. Instead, he's pushed himself into a jail cell and a chance of being in there for a while.
Through the subs, Nels. We've got Mesalami Dolakotto at hooker, who we just thought had such a big last year and just can't get anywhere near the starting side now. Dane Zander from the Reds at loosehead, who we thought was exceptional last year as a young player coming through, just hasn't been able to reach the same highs, and their set pieces really struggled. And John Ryan coming over from the UK, he was, a capped international, like an experienced older player for sure, but just has not been able to keep up. It's I know it's the kind of the twilight of his career, but he should be right for a Joe Moody role. Play 40 minutes, get him off the field, and just do a great job at all your core roles. And he just hasn't. So, I mean, that's our front row reserve.
I think the big thing was he hasn't seemed to scrummage as well as we expected from him as well.
Yeah.
We'll make note that this is basically an under-20s lineup because they had an extended bench. This is an extended bench because we want to shit on more people. There's Isaiah Walker-Leawere in the locks for us. Yes, he's looked decent at times, but again, a player that was breaking out. We've got Tom Robinson, the big sauce, slowly becoming the empty sauce bottle. James Lenches as well to round out that back row or the Lucy's.
Yeah, I've got reserve halfback James Tuttle. He was voted equal best player for the Rebels last year, and he has fallen so far behind Ryan Lonergan now. Bodie Barrett has had a few good moments like Finlay Christie, but just nowhere near his best, and has obviously fallen down the pecking order for New Zealand. And it could actually cost him a World Cup spot. I'm not sure it will, but on form it probably should. I've got Jack Goodhue as my reserve centre. Just, again, like since coming back from injury, he's had one reasonable game, but he's just nowhere near the player that we remember at the moment. And, for a bloke that was just so exceptional at 12 and 13, he really needs to find some form.
To round it out, we've got Jonah Lowe, a player that, on the end of a very good back line, has not really done a lot to light up our screens this season. And he is a very good, talented player. And Sua'ali'i Vunivalu, the Cattle Pride, worked for 1 week. I think, Eddie's just going to have to keep chasing with it every single week because he lights himself up, got a bit excited once or twice after that little incident. And then after that, he's gone back to his quiet old self. I'm very, I wouldn't say slowly, but I'm very much losing hope. I wouldn't be picking the bloke in the Wallaby squad, and I hope we don't pick him.
No, it doesn't seem near it at the moment.
No, and I'm pretty sure he signed and he's taken a discount. Is that what's happened? He's not signed for as much money, but he's staying.
Yeah,
like I'm happy that he's staying. Good on him, but I'm not against him leaving.
I still just think he needs to get his body right. He still doesn't look completely comfortable running. For a Ferrari, he's stuck in first gear. The gearbox is damaged.
That's it. That's the issue. He just doesn't seem like he can trust himself.
No. Let's push on to the last of our podcast notes before the dessert, because we are kicking on here for a long podcast, regardless of no previews. Top news, I just wanted to quickly say Connor Vest fractured his neck, C7 vertebra on the weekend, walked off because he's a tough bugger. Hard as the medical team there, where your player's obviously hard as nails and not realising he's got a broken neck. Jesus Christ. But we wish him all the best, obviously, and I think he sees a specialist in Queensland this week, and we'll find out what his future holds, but hopefully nothing too long for him.
The commentators legitimately said, "Oh, that's good to see. That'll be comforting for his family."
They always say that.
He's got a broken neck. That was quite concerning.
Yeah.
And then the last piece is we had the Barbarians, Eddie's Barbarians versus the World 15, Steve Hansen, the Falau picker.
We won't put spoilers out there for two reasons. Number one, Jesus Christ, go watch the game. And number two, I've only watched the first half because it finished at midnight. I don't know about you.
I watched the whole game. I don't care about no spoilers. I won't spoil anything for you. But, I mean, the things that you need to know. Holy shit. Tamanavalu. Holy shit ×2. Radradra. Falau just did one of the most ridiculous flicks. Nkosi did a backflip, almost broke his neck and died,
Oh,
but kept on playing.
what the hell?
What the
Hit him
fuck?
mid-air, upside down, spinning around to try and plant it in. I wanted them to go frame by frame. I thought that ball might have been in. Jesus Christ, you got to watch this game. The firepower in the back lines was out of control. Tavita Lee, La Marpe as well. Don't forget him. Like Samu Karevi, Quade Cooper.
Quade Cooper looked good as well. Like, I mean,
that Achilles is fine. It's so fine.
I mean, I think Eddie literally went, give it a crack. Like, show me that your Achilles is fine, because he had no questions on backing himself. He looks as physically good as he has looked.
Samu Karevi left the field, mate. Have you Googled yet what's going on with him? I don't.
All I've Googled is Eddie Jones has played it down, is all that I've seen. Eddie Jones has played down the injury. So saying it's not that severe, but I don't know anything about the injury. Adam Radwan was another one that has to have a shout out. This bloke, I mean, for us, we didn't really know this guy. 179 centimeters, 86 kilos. He is a winger for the Newcastle Falcons and has played a little bit of England as well. Jesus Christ. He would be close to the speed of Corey Toole, but he can actually step. The bloke is electric. And I think he only got picked because they couldn't pick some of the English squad players. Holy shit. Get this guy in the English squad. He was that good.
Oh, he is so electric to watch. Outrageous. And well done. I think it was Eddie Jones that picked him then, wasn't he? He was Barbarians. Man, he is so good. And I reckon that's probably why Eddie picked him, just to try and put his name up in lights, because he was phenomenal. What a player. The other one that the final score, the final piece of news was another UK team looking like shutting down Nels.
Yeah, this is a bit concerning. The London Irish, another team that looks like they may go under. Apparently there were reports that, I don't know if someone was buying, the money was coming from somewhere.
Some US blokes that used to own an NFL side or something like that, but it just hasn't come to fruition.
Yeah, I mean, how it affects us. I mean, Creevy's over there, that doesn't help us, but Hoskins, Oliver Hoskins, he may return to WA. I wouldn't mind seeing that. Robbie Simmons is signed elsewhere. Who else is interesting? Henry Arundel, he's very good. He's got to pick up a contract somewhere or some good cash.
Surely.
Joey Powell as well. He's another Aussie that's over there, 29-year-old. I don't see him coming back. There's too much competition for him, to be honest, but he might want to throw his hat in the ring over these next few years in Australian rugby too.
And I love the fact that this is, the third team in 9 months. I don't love that fact. But at the same time, the premiership clubs are meant to be putting the salary cap up. It's meant to rise 1.4 million pounds for the next season, or somewhere between 1.4 to 6.4 or something like that. Just a huge increase in the salary cap when no teams are actually able to pay their way at the moment. Wasp and Worcester, obviously both gone. Now the London Irish, it's just, why? Why would you put it up by so much? It's so dumb.
Look, we don't know the Premiership that well, but these are big clubs with huge history and they're getting to this point. Something is not right. They're paying players tons of money, which is great for the players, but something is not right over there at the moment. And I've seen some people talking about they need to change how the competition runs, and there's some substantial changes, or this stuff's going to keep happening. And to me, the substantial change isn't paying people more money.
Well, the only thing I can think of, and this is absolute speculation, is maybe they want a few less teams, try and build a smaller group of teams, a tighter pot of professional players, high quality of rugby, have more money to go around a smaller group of players. Maybe there's some tactical kind of angle to this, and it's just whichever team falls first.
They've got plenty of tier 2 teams that,
We're on the same bucks.